Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is a quick little part two of my interview with Darcy Ware, filmmaker extraordinaire, longtime friend of mine, and Andy Marcial, who we just were having a good time here. Andy was with Darcy. They did this very interesting documentary. I'm going to read the title, Transmedium, Puerto Rico's UFOs. Darcy, well done. Andy, well done. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And there's a contactee case. Are we able to talk about this? You didn't want to get into it for the YouTube thing, Darcy.
For it.
It's it seems to be this is really weird because in your film you interviewed, as we discussed, Andres Maldonado, who had a very interesting contactee case with a being named Amaran, and it's a very extended story. We won't go over it here now. People can just watch our interview, or they can just watch your film, which is even better. But there's another case from the 1980s from someone, and how much of this are we able to discuss? I was really not clear on
I
what's
don't
allowed and what's not allowed here.
like when I was on the island and before I went, I was having conversations with um, a Maori Riviera. And this is a guy who, famously said that he went on board, he was abducted by a non-human intelligent looking creature.
Yeah,
Let's say it looked like a gray. Then when he woke up, he was on board this ship, and he met Amaron, which is this like Indian, middle of Asia, not
like from India, right?
America, from India. He met this Indian looking non-human intelligence that was showing him and a bunch of other Puerto Ricans, not just him, but like they were sitting in kind of like a theater setting looking at this man who was also with these non-human creatures, and he was explaining who he was, where he came from, why he was talking to them, and that they were concerned about future events where essentially the earth was going to get hit by an asteroid maybe around 2027, and it's going to hit the ocean off the coast of Puerto Rico. And it's going to cause such damage that most of the planet's uninhabited. But
Oh,
there's this
crap.
one futuristic island, and the rich people live on the island. It's protected. They live in like luxury and high technology, whereas everybody else lives like um, a brave new world circumstances, caveman sort of de-evolved humans
That
that
sounds
are,
pretty much like where we're headed. So actually could believe that.
yeah,
You have a few people living in their little bubble, and the rest of us slobs just
yeah,
trying to scrape out a living.
yeah.
That's
So
what this being said.
that's what this being said. And then a Maori went back to, was back in Puerto Rico after this event and was startled. And he took photos of the craft right after he was dropped off. And the craft was being paced by F-4 fighter jets, um, which I guess you can go to the photos now. But a
This is on a
Maori,
YouTube, this is on a YouTube clip, I believe. Isn't this what you sent me, Andy?
Well, I sent you the clip of the interview, and
Yeah.
then I had
Are there
sent.
photographs? You sent me some photographs, which I don't have here to show because I'm not sure if I'm even supposed to show these things. I got this idea that I'm stepping on some toes by talking about this. Is
I'll
this true?
I'll I'll, I'll leave that one to Darcy.
Darcy doesn't want to get into it because you're going to be
oh
covering.
no, like when I first started speaking to a Maori, I was like, yeah, like I can pay you for your time. This individual, out of all the Puerto Ricans
You don't
that,
have to get into any financial details if you don't want to.
nah, I'll just say straight up, he wanted a lot of money, and I don't have a lot of money.
Yeah,
And I
okay.
made that clear to him, and then he kind of rage quit the whole idea. And, you know, um, was like reaching out to my wife and all kinds of weird, like deviant behavior. And I told him to like,
Shit went sideways. We'll just let that go.
yeah. And
So
so I
is,
don't,
but
I wanted to include his story, but I
yeah,
couldn't.
okay, okay, gotcha. But what's interesting is that the being he claims to have met with had essentially the same name as the being that your witness Andre Maldonado had, and Maldonado, as we discussed in part one, I got to say the guy seemed quite credible.
And it
I mean,
wasn't just
he seemed
him.
quite
Don't
credible.
forget, there was multiple people on the craft. If I'm not mistaken, a Maori tracked down some of the people that he saw on the craft.
Did he? This is from 1988, correct?
Yeah, he tracked a couple of them down and confirmed with them that they had
Really?
the same experience. Yeah, so it's a very credible
He may have been
story.
difficult to work with, but he may actually have the real thing here.
Well, I told Darcy because I've heard from other sources that he's very the same experience that Darcy had is a similar experience that these people had. But I told Darcy, I'm like, I think it has more to do with the fact that that incident may have really messed with him. Because again, coming from experience of being, that close to this kind of phenomenon, it doesn't always go well with certain people. Like there are individuals that can get through it, and work the, I guess you could say the mess that's in your head after you have that kind of experience. You could work through it, and other people can't.
Yeah.
And I think he's one of those individuals that just couldn't, and it really messed with his life.
I'm gonna link to that YouTube video featuring him for people who are watching us right now. But what is his name? Can someone say his name so that it's so I guess I would put
Maui Riviera.
a
It's
Maori,
actually a Maori Rivera.
a Maori Rivera.
Rivera.
Okay, good. It's very interesting. I was not familiar with this case, and when we were talking earlier, Andy, you were surprised that I didn't know. There's a lot of things I don't know. Like there's a lot that has slipped by me, but that's an interesting contactee case, and I should have known about it. That now that I'm learning about it, because it's quite interesting. I don't know what to do
Well,
with these contactee cases, honestly. Like there's a big part of me that just wants to push them all out and say, so we have a psychological issue here. But I think there are too many. I just
it's
can't
just
do that in good conscience.
you know what I met someone from the Netherlands through my Instagram. When I was telling my story, this individual reached out to me in regards to an incident I had in my room where something I had a visit by something. So the details that led to the ultimate ending of my story, this individual, when we spoke, she told me her experience, and my hair stood up because it was the exact same thing. Like everything word for word that happened to me, that I was laying in my bed, felt like something was in my room, something was on my bed. I stopped breathing. It's like all this craziness
Okay, stop. And
exactly
you got to
happened
tell
this
us
way.
your story. You got to tell us your story. Can you do that?
Yeah.
I guarantee you there's people watching this right now who've had stories like this. They've had situations. So why don't you tell us what happened to you?
Well,
If you
I'll
if you
tell the
can.
yeah, I'll tell the quick version of it, because I have to tell the first part before I get to that part, which is uh, we spoke the last time in regards to the 1992 incident here in Brookhaven.
Yes, that was
Remember that?
the well, a possible crash retrieval
Yes,
of an
here in
object
Long
that came
Island.
to Long Island. Yes.
So my very first, besides the incident I told you about in Puerto Rico, I was too young to actually have an impact from that. But the one that had the most impact for me was the one here in '92, where I had the saucer hovering over my house from about 150 feet away.
Hmm.
So after that incident, after that experience, a couple of weeks later, I had an incident in my room where I was woken up in the middle of the night by something, but I wasn't awake where you open your eyes. I was just conscious, like sometimes you wake up, but you don't have to open your eyes. You're just like aware.
Mm-hmm.
And I had thought it was my my little sister walking around in the middle of the night using the bathroom or something, or maybe come into my room. So I had just laid there kind of listening, and I didn't hear anything. And then I felt an impression on the foot of my bed on my left side. And I kind of brushed it off to maybe it was just, my imagination, or maybe I was dreaming or something. I don't know. So I just laid there, still, just again listening. And then I felt another impression on the other side of my foot. So once I felt that, I realized, okay, something's really happened. So my heart's racing. And as I'm laying there, the first impression lifts and moves to the side of my waist. And then the one by my other foot moves to the other side of my waist. So now I feel two impressions. Then I feel another one by my left foot and another one by my right foot. So now there's four. So I have basically in my mind an impression of somebody's in my room, like over me on my bed, right? So every time one of these things moved, my heart is just racing and just racing and racing.
Are your eyes open at this point?
I was too afraid to open them.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to see what was there.
And how old were you?
I would say I was maybe about 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was about 14 years old.
So keep going.
So they're by my waist. So then the two by my waist move to the side of my shoulders, and then the two by my feet move to the side of my waist. Mind you, this is a few months after that incident that I saw the craft. So now they're by my waist and by my shoulders. And at this point, I'm terrified. Like my mind is filling in what I can see with all the scary things I've seen in movies. So now I really don't want to open my eyes because I don't want to see what the heck is in my room. And also I was very religious at the time. So I was going to church and all that. So I'm thinking demons and all this crazy nonsense. So as I'm laying there, I actually tried to move at one point, but I was so afraid I couldn't even move my pinky. Like I tried to do that and I couldn't. I was afraid that anything I would do, like whatever was there, would react to it. So then I felt like if you close your eyes and you put your hand here, you don't have to touch yourself to know that your hand is in front of your face. I felt that. So the impression I got was that it was a face or something right in front of my face. And I could feel my breath and hear my breath bouncing back off of it. So at this point, I'm like, I'm going to die. Like whatever's in my room is going to kill me. I don't want to open my eyes to see what it was because I was a bit of a chicken shit back in the day. And then all of a sudden, as I'm laying there, I stopped breathing. But it wasn't like I was being choked from the exterior. It was as if something was inside of my esophagus. Something was inside of my throat, blocking my airway. And I started gasping for air like I was drowning. And I was like, like that. And I just couldn't get a breath of air. So at that moment, when I realized, okay, something's happening, I'm probably going to die from this. I decided, screw it. Let me open my eyes and see what it is, and see what's going to do it. So I sat up, opened my eyes, and took a deep breath, and I was in my room. And
alone,
looked around, and I was, by myself. So for many years, I attributed to sleep paralysis. But then I started like diving into the whole abduction thing. And that's when my hair stood up because there were so many cases. And again, the individual that I met personally who had the exact same experience in the exact same way. So it goes back to what you were saying is like, how is it possible that so many people from around the world experienced something so similar, and some with their eyes open who saw what was in their room or who saw where they were? Some of them weren't even in their room. Yeah. So I'm at least from my experience, I think my mind was telling me it was in my room, but I was actually not even in my room. I may have been somewhere else. and me not breathing could have been something that was being inserted down my throat. And
Really
then when
I appreciate you telling the story. How long do you think it lasted, the whole experience? Do you have any notion?
I don't know how long it lasted. All I know is when I woke up, it was like around 2 or 3 in the morning, which is another interesting thing because that's a typical time frame for a lot of this stuff to happen to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that. That's a powerful experience. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had something I don't know if I've ever told. So when I was in my mid-20s, I was living in an apartment in Rochester, New York. I was doing graduate work at the University of Rochester, and it was the middle of the afternoon, and I went back from the university to my apartment, and I did something that I never ever did, which was I took a nap in the middle of the day. I was 25 years old, like never do that. But I was tired. I felt a little tired, so I laid down. I was in probably 2 in the afternoon. I was in my day clothes. I just go lie down on my bed. I was alone in my apartment. I shared it with another friend of mine, the two of us, and he wasn't there. So I was just lying down, and I was lying on my stomach, facing my to my right, which was the wall of my bedroom. I was just facing the wall, and behind me was the door coming into the room, which was like mostly open. It was like half open, half closed. It was very quiet, and I was just resting. And I was overcome with sleep. I was overcome. I was awake, but I was paralyzed. I felt completely paralyzed at the moment that I felt a presence come into my room. And I will never forget this. I was wide awake, and there's no logical way for me to explain this, but I absolutely felt some being, an intelligence, something came into my bedroom, and I was scared. Like I couldn't move. I couldn't look down at the foot of the bed to see anything. And I felt a presence of something come right because I'm on my side, and I felt the presence of something come right here, right to my head. And I didn't feel that it was malevolent at all. I actually felt that it was somewhat like benign, somehow good, but I still was terrified. And it's lasted for like a good minute. All the while I could not move my body in the least. And I thought, well, I'm going to try to move my toe, and I'm going to work my way up from my toe up my body and see if I can do something. And it took me the longest time to like move my toe. At least it felt like the longest time. I was finally starting able to move my toe, and then I moved my foot a little bit, and then I was able to move part of my leg. And then at some point I was able to whip around to face whatever was there, but there was nothing there. So I've also wondered, like, what was that happened? Was that a form of sleep paralysis, some kind of hypnagogic state? And I'm sure some people would say that that's what it was. But I will tell you, it felt absolutely real to me. And to this day, like I think about it, I've never forgotten that moment.
Tell you my experience now because we're doing this group hug. Um, first, the first time that this ever happened to me, it really, as an adult. So I've had experiences as a kid. They're very similar to Andy's, where I was like in a pitch dark room, my bedroom, trying to fall asleep, and something I felt like breath or whatever over me. It was really weird. I haven't really talked about that much, but I kind of chalked it up, um, even in my early years, um, to being just a nightmare, something that I had dreamt that was like a vivid dream instead of what I had experienced. But when I was in my 20s living in Toronto, Ontario, um, I went to bed one night and I was lying in my bed and I had my eyes closed, and I was trying to sort of dream, trying to think of something. And then all of a sudden, I felt the same sort of feeling where my body was just stiff. And at the same time as that, I was hearing this like vibration noise in my ears, like really loud. It started off quieter, and then it started woom, 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 and
Mhm.
got faster and louder. And I was getting creeped out because I was like, what is this? Right? Like, this is not something I'm doing. There's no device or TV on, like, whatever. And I started feeling like some pressure on my chest. And then I um, was getting scared. So I forced my eyes open because I felt like, just before this, I felt that I was stiff. Like I couldn't move my eyes, I couldn't move anything. And when I opened my eyes, I shit you not, I literally opened my eyes to what looked like a head right over my head, looking right at me, black silhouette in a dark room. And I snapped out of it immediately. And I swear to God, like a pole vaulter does a kick to get his feet over top of that line in the Olympics to then catapult his whole body over and like lunge onto that safety mat or whatever. I
Mhm.
was lying flat and went from lying flat to doing a catapulting kick up at this thing that was looking down at me. And I literally almost fell right out of bed because I like did this motion like a like almost like a break dancer trying to get back on his feet from his back. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Okay. Right.
I swear to God, this happened to me. And I'm not a godly man. I'm not a religious dude. I swear on my life this happened. And I was startled. I was so scared after this happened. I couldn't get back to sleep. I was like, what did I just hallucinate? Like, what was this? And I have not really told many people that.
Well, hey, thanks. These are the kinds of stories that really make me think there's another dimension. It's just like right here. It's just right there. I can't see it, and someone's operating there. I mean, it
Well,
really makes me think.
I
Yeah, I
think the
mean, like
best. Go ahead, Darcy.
like Mike Ricksecker, he wrote a book about shadow people, right? And in sleep paralysis, it is a common attribute that people will sometimes imagine a black figure or silhouette like near their bed. Um, so I guess it fits with that, but to me, it just did not seem like some kind of delusion. It felt like something like Rich is talking about. Like I tuned into something that was in the room with me that I normally cannot tune
Yeah.
into. And as soon as I saw it, I was frightened for my life and it disappeared. Like I was no longer allowed to see it.
Yeah.
I think we have abilities that happen subconsciously. Like for example, like deja vu. How do you explain that? Or
Mhm.
when you're thinking of a song and someone else just starts picking it up right from where you're leaving it off in your head. Like I think humans are capable of doing certain things that we attributed to, for example, like, oh, it's just sleep paralysis. It may actually be something that our brain's doing that is allowing us to have access to a different portion of reality that we normally would not, like when we're conscious and awake and alert.
Yeah.
But when we're in that state, you're able to kind of pass into that without doing it purposely. Your brain is just doing it.
Yeah.
And that's what we attribute to seeing shadow people, these weird things. But it's actually something you are experiencing because shit, at least what I went through, if it seemed real, like it definitely was not something that I could say, oh yeah, it was a dream. no dream, you know, that was
Yeah.
one
Oh, no,
thousand
no, yeah.
percent real, whatever I
Same here.
experienced.
Yeah.
I
And I
think,
think
yeah,
you're touching on ESP, like just this
yeah.
extra sensory perception that is innate to human beings. Some people in their waking life, they're able to access it, and other people, they're going to sleep and they slip into it accidentally or something, right?
And frequently we just tell ourselves, oh, we don't believe in that. And so I think a lot of people actually do have some of these experiences, but we tend to or they will dismiss them sometimes because they don't believe that it's real. I've come to believe in a lot of that stuff. I'm a
Oh,
strong believer in our psychic abilities. I'm married to a pretty damn good remote viewer. You know her, Darcy, and I think you got to chat with her just a little while ago, Andy. That's Tracy. And I'm lucky. I get to have great conversations with her every day about this type of thing. I don't need to be convinced anymore. I'm completely on board. I think we do um, perceive things that we don't fully understand. You know, we're not at the pinnacle of intelligence. We're smart and we've got potential, but there's a lot we don't know. That's what I think.
it's interesting because I've heard, you know, I'm sure you've heard it too, but I've heard of the fact that, you know, we were created by something else and that our DNA was capped. So we are not able to do what we technically can do. So I feel like that's probably where we got capped at, where we have these experiences that, like, to us are, you know, we don't understand it and we attribute it to a dream or anything like that. But that's basically what's stopping us from actually being able to do more than just that consciously. I mean, if you think about it, if that is true, then it makes sense to do that to us, given the fact that we're such a violent race. Could you imagine us now in the state that we're in with all these crazy abilities? Forget it. The world would be fucked. You know what I mean? Like, excuse my language, but it would
More
be.
so.
Oh yeah, forget it.
More so. No, your language is perfectly. I'm not even going to beep that out. That stays. Yeah, you know, I mean, I don't know if I go back and forth all the time over like were we modified, were we created? Uh, for me, you know, we're all in a matter of opinion here. I would say maybe we were. Were we capped? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I do think that we have had and do retain some meaningful psychic abilities. I tend to think that we probably had greater psychic abilities in the past because maybe they were useful on an evolutionary point of view, and maybe we've kind of trained ourselves not to use them. But I don't know. Depends
Maybe
on the day of the week. I
technology,
think.
maybe technology has handicapped a lot of that previous high psychic ability, you know,
Yeah,
just
no, I think so,
our
and
rely
not just our modern technology, but all of our technology over thousands of years. I think we become dependent on it. Well, look, I don't want
Yeah,
to
I
keep you
think
guys
so.
all night. People watching this don't realize, but it's very, very late here. And
I don't mind.
I don't know what time it is for you, but it's actually it's 11 p.m. where I'm at.
Where you at?
Rochester, New York.
Yeah, yeah, I'm in upstate New York on the Eastern time.
11 already?
Yeah, it's 11.
Oh
How about
shit.
that? Where are you, Andy?
Long Island.
Oh, that's where I grew up. Did we talk about
Remember?
this? What town? Brentwood?
You were the one that freaking nailed it on the head the
We
first
had we
try.
had the Brentwood conversation.
Yeah, I was like,
Good
how the hell
Lord,
did you
man.
know? Yeah, and your exact words were your accent. I was like, how the hell? I didn't
Oh
even
yeah,
know
that's right.
Brentwood had an accent.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And you went to the
Yeah.
same school I went to.
Ross High School,
Yep.
Brentwood Ross. Yeah, I graduated a different year than you. But yeah, no, I had we moved to Brentwood from Brooklyn when I was just before I turned 5. So I did all of my schooling in Brentwood from kindergarten right through my graduation
Jesus.
at Ross High School in Brentwood, New York. Yeah. So
Crazy.
very cool.
Birds of a feather here.
We
Andy,
are indeed.
don't be
Let's stick
late.
together. Stick together. All right. Well, listen, gentlemen, I'm very grateful for this. I strongly believe that the folks watching this here on our website at Richard Olin members coolest UFO website in town will enjoy it and appreciate it. Well, gentlemen, thank you. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And I look forward to chatting with you anytime. You both know how to reach me, and I'll do the same.
Thanks, brother. Have a good night.
Always
Say
good time.
bye. Say good night to Tracy for me.
I will.
Yeah.
And
Night, Tracy.
she may be out right now, actually. She was tired. So I will let her know. And all the members watching, thank you for sticking with us. And we'll catch you again soon. Bye for now.